before the relentless, deafening noise of the external world and the chaotic, deeply restrictive expectations of society dictate your day, intentionally and completely stop. In this incredibly sacred, untouchable, and highly protected time, draw a deep, anchoring, fiercely present breath directly into the very center of your physical being. Inhale slowly, pulling restorative, brilliant, and electrically charged air into the quietest, most protected chambers of your stomach. Hold it for one magnificent, suspended heartbeat, allowing pure, dynamic oxygen to gather every single ounce of your anxious, scattered, and deeply suppressed energy. Exhale, dropping the massive, suffocating boulder of unspoken eccentricities, silenced brilliance, and exhausted mental loops from your weary shoulders. Unclench your jaw, releasing the dense, heavy memory of swallowed radical thoughts, hidden genius, and intellectual boundaries kept hidden just for the sake of fragile, artificial, and utterly boring peace. You are completely, fundamentally, and unequivocally safe here, fiercely recognized for your radiant, revolutionary essence and your ancient, untamed, deeply liberated soul. We are currently navigating a staggering, intensely complex, wildly unpredictable, and deeply revealing energetic intersection. The date is April 25. This is absolutely not a day for casual, passive observation, and it is certainly not a day for continuing the frantic, exhausting sprint of your old, mentally suffocating romantic patterns, nor is it a day for remaining silently, intellectually compliant to traditional relationship structures. This is a day of absolute, breathtaking, and terrifyingly beautiful mental revolution and communicative sovereignty. On this highly specific, mathematically precise point in the cosmos, we are experiencing a massive, visceral, lightning-fast shift of an entirely liberating, profoundly disruptive energetic force. Today, Uranus, the Great Awakener, the glorious planet of rebellion, sudden breakthroughs, radical truth, and absolute freedom, officially makes its magnificent, electrifying, highly dynamic, and spectacularly disruptive entrance into the wild, curious, endlessly expansive, and brilliantly communicative air of Gemini. These are not just distant planets moving silently and meaninglessly in the dark, cold void of space. These are literal energetic codes, massive, physical, and psychological lightning strikes for your human experience, being downloaded directly into your nervous system, your throat chakra, your brilliant mind, and your highly sensitive heart space. They are completely, irrevocably, and beautifully rewriting your internal blueprint for love, breaking down the ancient, stagnant, traditional illusions you have carried about your worth and your identity, and forcing you into a state of absolute, undeniable romantic and intellectual liberation, protected by a fiercely articulate, highly eccentric, and unapologetically brilliant guard. Let us deeply, courageously, and honestly examine what is actually happening within your spirit as the brilliant, revolutionary, shockwave energy of Uranus in Gemini drops its electrifying spark into the fertile, waiting soil of your consciousness. For a very, very long time, you have been operating in a state of absolute, chronic intellectual conformity and romantic restriction. Because of your deep, beautifully tender heart, your profound capacity for empathy, and the unhealed wounds of rejection you have carried for lifetimes, you have lived in an agonizing state of trying to tone down your glorious, unique weirdness to prove your value to a highly conventional world. You have taken your beautiful, luxurious, entirely worthy, and wildly unconventional soul, and you have constantly put it into a tiny, suffocating, socially acceptable box, hoping that if you just normalized your mental standards, if you just stopped expressing such radical, beautiful ideas, someone would finally choose you and stay. You have gone to absolute war against your own self-respect, convincing yourself that if you asked for the deep, stimulating, fiercely independent, and completely unapologetic freedom you actually desired, you would be seen as too unstable, too rebellious, or too difficult to love. You have desperately, constantly allowed people to treat your brilliant, lightning-fast mind as a liability while you treated their bare minimum, highly predictable presence as a luxury. You took your primal, vital intellectual life force, your beautiful capacity for raw, engaging, endlessly fascinating, and unconventional devotion, and you locked it in a heavy, dark, suffocating cycle of over-explaining your absolute brilliant nature to people who were completely committed to keeping you small and manageable. You tolerated partners who gave you intense, blazing promises of a traditional future, but who offered absolutely zero tangible, intellectual, consistent space for your authentic, constantly evolving self to actually breathe in the present moment. You fell deeply, tragically, and exhaustingly into the devastating habit of accepting energetic and mental cages, convincing yourself that if you were just compliant enough, normal enough, quiet enough, and predictable enough, they would magically recognize your worth and hand you the crown of traditional validation. You became fiercely addicted to the noble, exhausting, completely self-destructive crusade of performing the ordinary, easily understood partner. You convinced yourself that if you just kept your voice soft, if you never caused a scene with your revolutionary ideas, if you completely suppressed the fiery, entirely valid, deeply eccentric energy that was burning in your chest, you could finally secure the unconditional, stable love you so desperately craved. You confused the absolute exhaustion of this endless, unwinnable performance of playing small with the feeling of profound, romantic sacrifice. You thought that because you were constantly swallowing your radical truth, dulling your unique perspective, and keeping the suffocating peace, it must mean you were highly evolved. You mistook the suffocating, terrifying absence of mental freedom and vocal expression for a peaceful, secure relationship. You have been operating in a thick, heavy fog of intellectual self-betrayal, completely disconnected from the sacred, electric vessel of your own mind. Walking carefully on a floor of sharp, unpredictable eggshells, entirely convinced that your ultimate lack of tangible, authentic self-expression would eventually be rewarded. You waited for the grand, cinematic moment where they would finally, magically see your brilliant, unconventional value, validate your unique existence, and give you the luxurious, consistent, deeply liberating respect you never dared to demand out loud. But as the profound, transformative, wildly electric energy of this April 25 alignment peaks, as Uranus strikes the magnificent, limitless, brilliantly articulate kingdom of Gemini with the force of a cosmic thunderbolt, the chaotic, exhausting, deeply stagnant fog of your romantic conformity is suddenly, violently, and beautifully burning away forever. This alignment is sparking a massive, irreversible, lightning-fast spiritual awakening directly within your mind, your nervous system, and your throat. It is the sudden, striking, highly physical, and entirely cerebral realization of the sovereign creator who finally realizes their eccentric intellect and their radical voice are the ultimate prize, and who absolutely refuses to ever negotiate their freedom, their curiosity, or their need for profound, unfiltered communication again. You are experiencing a literal, physical shockwave of mental and somatic clarity. The heavy, intoxicating, deeply addictive illusion of the compliant, traditional, easily digested lover is shattering into a million sparkling, unrecoverable, electrified pieces. You are suddenly seeing the past, the toxic dynamics, the endless swallowing of your revolutionary voice, the dulling of your vibrant, chaotic mind, and the agonizing lack of true, structured, intellectually liberating partnership with a stark, almost blinding realism. You are looking at the people who gave you anxiety instead of assurance, the unbalanced connections that completely drained your mental and physical vitality. The relationships that felt like wearing clothes 2 sizes too small, and for the very first time in your entire life, you do not feel the desperate, clawing urge to chase them, to fix them, or to politely, exhaustingly explain why your brilliant mind intimidated them. You do not feel the heavy, suffocating responsibility to build a safe, predictable fantasy in your mind, because the conversational reality in front of you is so painfully, insultingly restrictive. You are feeling the brilliant, sharp, deeply protective, wildly stimulating lightning of Uranus in Gemini, waking up inside your actual brain synapses and your vocal cords, entirely supported by the absolute, boundary-setting, unapologetic fire of your own newly liberated spirit. You are finally, deeply, and profoundly understanding that your vital, brilliant, multifaceted, and deeply unconventional love was never meant to be a chaotic, silent negotiation. It was meant to be an absolute, unshakable, endlessly fascinating, and completely free given. This is the absolute, permanent, spectacular death of the people-pleasing conformist within your romantic blueprint. You are finally, permanently dropping the heavy, rusted mask of the silent sufferer and the intellectually caged companion. You are taking your immense, beautiful, terrifying, brilliant, and completely unique power back from the people who gladly, willingly kept you in a state of constant, panicked uncertainty and traditional boredom. You are finally realizing that true, sovereign love requires 2 seemingly opposite but deeply necessary actions. It requires the breathtaking ability to ground yourself entirely in your absolute, brilliant, highly individualistic worth, and it requires the terrifying bravery to fiercely, vocally, and unapologetically shatter anything that threatens to put that worth into a cage. And the universe is not just breaking your toxic, compliant patterns. It is immediately, beautifully rushing in to fortify your spirit with a tidal wave of unimaginable, fiercely protective, undeniable, and brilliantly revolutionary truth. Because exactly as you drop the addiction to proving your normalcy, the skies open up and deliver the pure, undeniable, electrifying shock of Uranus in Gemini, teaching you the profound magic of simply existing in your absolute radical truth and expressing your boundless mind, while handing you the ultimate megaphone to broadcast your brand new, unshakable, liberated rules. Listen to the sound of my voice and let these words sink into the deepest, most permanent, entirely sovereign layers of your subconscious mind. Uranus is doing the fierce, intensely necessary, shockingly brilliant work of completely rewiring your throat chakra and tearing down the restrictive, societal walls around your intellect. It is placing a sparkling, multidimensional, highly electric crown on your head and refusing to let you ever look down, quiet your mind, or apologize for your genius again. Meanwhile, the universe is standing guard at the door of your life, completely refusing to let you use soft, passive-aggressive, dull, traditional, or timid language anymore. For so long, you have operated in a state of energetic restriction and muted expression. You have survived on boring, predictable words without actions, and you have spoken your brilliant, revolutionary needs as if they were burdens or massive apologies. The transformative, electric, high-voltage frequency of April 25 is stepping powerfully into your energetic field, placing its warm, vibrant, incredibly steady hands firmly on your shoulders, looking you dead in the eye, and whispering a profound, ultimate, mind-altering truth directly into your soul. Your worth is absolute, your mind is a terrifying masterpiece, your weirdness is your greatest asset, Your voice is essential, and your freedom is completely non-negotiable. And your authentic, liberated voice is the weapon that protects it all. True, authentic, profoundly aligned love is not supposed to be a diet of conversational breadcrumbs, nor is it supposed to require you to silence your roar, dull your shine, hide your complexities, or pretend to be normal. It is supposed to be an absolute, luxurious, overflowing banquet of consistent presence, defended by radical honesty, breathtaking intellectual synergy, and absolute mutual freedom. You are currently undergoing a radical, highly accelerated, somatic, mental, and communicative upgrade. You are being entirely recalibrated to handle the intense, brilliant frequency of true, unfiltered, unapologetic, highly articulate, and deeply liberated self-worth. You find yourself suddenly, inexplicably repulsed by the slow, inconsistent, deeply unreliable, entirely boring, and highly traditional dynamics that you used to tolerate and crave. The idea of rushing into a mindless physical connection, or the idea of having to perform exhausting emotional gymnastics just to get a basic, coherent, slightly unconventional point across, suddenly feels profoundly insulting, completely draining, and entirely unnatural to your newly awakened, highly sovereign, deeply articulate, and fiercely independent spirit. You are looking at the confusing, chaotic, half-hearted, conventional communication you used to accept, and you are feeling an unshakable, elevated intolerance for anything less than a partner who possesses the profound, brilliant discipline to match their fascinating words with absolute, undeniable, physical action while entirely respecting your need for immense personal space. This is not you becoming stubborn, complicated, unlovable, or mean. This is you becoming entirely sovereign and deeply free. This is you becoming a master of your own tangible, brilliantly communicative, highly unconventional reality. You are realizing that you do not want a partner who only brings the wild, destructive fire of toxic potential or the heavy, suffocating silence of traditional avoidance. You want a partner who brings the brilliant, engaging, completely reliable energy of actualized commitment, and who is brave enough, smart enough, independent enough, and present enough to handle the direct, unfiltered, spectacular, revolutionary fire of your authentic voice. You want a connection that feels like resting in a massive, brilliantly lit, beautifully furnished, entirely indestructible sanctuary of the mind, where the communication is stark, clear, endlessly fascinating, completely liberated, and totally devoid of manipulation or societal expectations. You are demanding, with the quiet, terrifying, unshakable confidence of a fully awakened, fully liberated soul, a love that is expansive, courageous, fiercely honest, completely reliable, physically present, incredibly intellectually stimulating, entirely sensual, and absolutely free of hidden agendas or restrictive rules. And because you are finally demanding it, because you are no longer accepting the scraps of uncertainty, silence, and conformity, the universe is expanding your magnetism to an entirely unprecedented, mind-blowing, electrifying, high-frequency level. You are calling in an absolute, brilliant equal, a sovereign, articulate, liberated builder for a sovereign, articulate, liberated builder. Someone who has fought their own brutal internal battles against societal conditioning, conquered their own deep fear of intimacy and vulnerability, and is now standing completely whole, capable of giving you the vast, expansive safety to breathe, relax your nervous system, fully inhabit your body, and wildly unleash your magnificent mind while entirely honoring the brilliant, sharp, absolute boundaries of your highly independent spirit. Someone who respects your profound depth, your endless curiosity, your radical ideas, your sharp, brilliant truth, and does not try to silence you or put you in a conventional box, but instead respectfully engages every layer of your magnificent, beautifully complex being. This energy is not just about romance, it is about the absolute convergence of all forms of your personal, sovereign, communicative, and revolutionary power. As you clear the dense, heavy, suffocating addiction to compliance, normalcy, and silence from your nervous system, you are simultaneously unblocking massive, rushing rivers of absolute authority, unstoppable momentum, radical innovation, and raw, brilliant wealth that were waiting for you to simply, finally speak up, break the rules, and fiercely demand your worth. You will notice over the next few days that opportunities, brilliant people, and serendipitous moments of sheer, undeniably perfect, structural alignment will start arriving at your doorstep with shocking, steady, electrifying grace. A sudden urge to completely and directly reject a toxic, restrictive situation without a single drop of guilt, hesitation, or over-explanation. An unexpected breakthrough in how you protect your mental and physical energy and your freedom. A brilliant wave of raw, deeply grounded power that absolutely demands to be treated with the utmost intellectual and emotional luxury. You will feel a radiant, blazing heat expanding in your chest, a deep, cellular, undeniable knowing that the universe is no longer teaching you through the agonizing pain of starvation, silence, restriction, and boredom. It is now teaching you through the ecstatic peace of absolute, overflowing abundance, radical truth, magnificent communication, and total liberation. You ask yourself, why did I ever accept the chaotic, silent, traditional negotiation when I was born to sit on a throne of undeniable, luxurious, deeply stimulating, and fiercely independent security? Why did I ever apologize for having massive, high standards, a brilliant mind, and a sharp voice when I had an entire ocean of divine worth within my own physical vessel? Do not dare to judge the past versions of yourself for the compliance, the silence, and the conformity they endured. They did the absolute best they could with the unhealed wounds of unworthiness they carried. They were desperately, blindly trying to find love in a world that had incorrectly, cruelly taught them that playing dumb, staying silent, fitting in, and self-sacrifice were the price of admission for deep connection. I want you to deeply, profoundly, and entirely forgive yourself right now. I want you to let the sound of my voice be the final, absolute, undeniable permission you need to completely release the heavy, exhausting, suffocating burden of your compliant, silenced, traditional, romantic history. Let your physical voice vibrate in the actual air around you. Do not just think this, actually speak it out loud, or scream it silently into the very center of your mind with the force of a cosmic supernova. I completely and unconditionally forgive myself for accepting mental, emotional, and energetic breadcrumbs. I forgive myself for silencing my fiery, brilliant, revolutionary truth to accommodate people who refuse to match my depth, my intellect, or my need for freedom. I forgive myself for pouring my sacred, vital, life-giving energy into connections that offered absolutely no physical grounding, no emotional honesty, no intellectual stimulation, and no space for my authentic self. I forgive myself for believing I had to endure agonizing anxiety, pretend to be normal, pretend to be less than I am, and bite my tongue to be worthy of deep, romantic connection. I completely release the heavy, rusted chains of my past conformity and scarcity mindset. I completely sever all energetic cords to the people who needed me to stay quiet, small, uncomplicated, and traditional, so they could avoid providing real consistency, genuine effort, and true acceptance. I call all of my vital, brilliant, beautiful, sensual, highly vocal, profoundly curious, radically eccentric, and fiercely grounded energy back to my own throat, my own mind, and my own physical body. I am finally, deeply, and irrevocably open to the absolute abundance of safe, clear, extremely consistent, intellectually thrilling, luxurious, entirely liberating, and unconditionally sovereign love. Breathe that massive, world-altering, revolutionary declaration deeply into your very cells. Feel the actual, physical, undeniable, electrifying shift in the room entirely around you. Feel the air become highly charged with absolute, unshakable solidity, sparkling clarity, and high-voltage liberation. Feel the chronic density, the deep anxiety, the heavy boredom, the fear of being seen as different, and the desperate need to please permanently leaving your energetic field forever. You have absolutely not lost a single ounce of your incredible potential by letting go of your past patterns. By walking away from the false, terrifying thrill of chaos and the heavy weight of traditional silence, by stepping directly, bravely, and loudly into the mature, brilliant, completely awake, revolutionary energy of Uranus in Gemini, protected by the fierce, vocal fire of your own absolute boundaries, you have just freed up a massive, staggering amount of life force energy. This energy is now rushing entirely into the physical, tangible manifestation of your absolute highest, most liberated timeline. What you are experiencing as this April transit peaks is a profound, incredibly necessary, and wildly explosive personal and romantic awakening. You are crossing the burning bridge from the timeline of the anxious, silent, conforming chaser directly into the timeline of the unapologetic, sovereign, brilliantly minded receiver. The quiet ghosts of your compliant habits will try to drift back in. An ex might reach out with a confusing message, hoping you will turn off your brilliant brain and perform the dance of silent anxiety one last time. When they do, you will experience the ultimate, exhilarating victory of your brand new energetic frequency. You will look at the invitation to shrink your voice, and you will feel absolutely nothing but a calm, elevated, completely untouchable, deeply rooted wall of solid, brilliant certainty. You will see the toxic dynamic for exactly what it is. And for the first time in your life, you will not sugarcoat your response. You will elegantly, firmly, and loudly speak your absolute, radical truth. Your peace is an impenetrable fortress, and you are no longer leaving your physical and mental home for anyone who refuses to bring absolute consistency, fierce intelligence, and absolute freedom to your door. Welcome home, beautiful soul, to the magnificent, articulate, electrifying roar of your absolutely indestructible greatness today.